Okay, let's say that you read the first question, then fully engaged in the passage as you read it at a comfortable speed. While doing so, you summarized each paragraph and you identified the main idea of the entire passage. It's now time to answer the questions. In this lesson, we'll examine some tips for finding the correct answer choice while eliminating incorrect answer choices. Now, as you examine the questions that accompany a passage, your goal will be to answer all of the questions without returning to the passage to reread parts of it. If you took adequate notes, you should only have to return to the passage to answer questions regarding specific details that you don't remember. The first tip to consider when examining your answer choices is to remember that you are not looking for the answer. You're looking for the best answer. For many reading comprehension questions, you'll often find that there are two answer choices that look pretty good. We'll call one the silver medal answer choice, and the other one the gold medal answer choice. The correct answer is, of course, the gold medal answer choice. Given this, it's very important that you check all 5 answer choices before making a selection. Otherwise, once you reach the silver medal answer choice, you might select it without ever reading the gold medal answer choice that appears later. Okay, another tip is to formulate your answer before checking the answer choices. Remember that the test makers are great at creating answer choices that are incorrect but sound good. So if you don't formulate an answer first, you must examine each answer choice and ask, does this answer the question? This method can waste a lot of time and energy, since we're naturally inclined to want each answer choice to be correct. As a result, one starts thinking, well, maybe this is correct in some circumstances, and that prevents you from eliminating answer choices, which in turn causes you to spend even more time on the question. Alternatively, if you do take the time to formulate an answer first, then when you examine each answer choice, you're looking for one that matches your response. This is a much easier and faster strategy. The next tip I'd like to discuss is to trust your notes. Keep in mind that you recorded those notes to help you save time. So if you go back and reread the passage, then the note-taking was a waste of time. You must learn to trust your notes, and the best way to build this trust is to practice a lot. As you're practicing, see if you can answer the questions without rereading the passage. The more you can answer questions using your notes and memory alone, the more time you'll save on test day. The next tip is to avoid using personal knowledge to answer questions. Remember that the answers to all questions can be found within the passage itself. So if the passage involves a topic that is familiar to you, be careful to use only the information contained in the passage. Another tip to consider is to ensure that the answer choice addresses the question. A common ploy of the test maker is to create answer choices that are supported by the passage but do not answer the question at hand. This is a very clever trap, because if you see an answer choice that presents information that you know to be 100% accurate, then you might be tempted to select that answer choice. Remember, the correct answer must provide true information and it must answer the question at hand. The next tip may seem obvious, but there's a lot to it. That is, eliminate incorrect answer choices. This tip is especially important when we don't know the correct answer to a question. So here are some tips to help you eliminate incorrect answer choices. First, avoid clever-sounding words. To set this up, please consider this hypothetical answer to some question. It's not unusual for a student to see this answer choice and think, well, I have no idea what circular reasoning is. I don't know what spurious means, and I have no idea whether or not this answer is correct. However, I am certain that this sounds like a very clever response. The student then goes on to conclude that since the answer sounds clever, it must have been written by a clever person, and a clever person would probably know the answer to this question. As such, this answer choice must be correct. Of course, this is faulty logic, and the test makers know that many students will be drawn to these kinds of answers, and as such, they intentionally make incorrect answers sound clever. So watch out for clever-sounding words. A very popular word to watch out for is methodology. It is often, but not always, associated with incorrect answer choices. Keep in mind that I'm not suggesting that every answer choice that sounds clever must be incorrect. First of all, each person has a different perception of what sounds clever. However, if you're in a situation where you don't know the correct answer to a question, then you need to be somewhat aggressive in eliminating answer choices. And a good way to do this is to eliminate those that sound clever, especially if you don't understand what those answer choices are even saying. Another strategy to consider is to eliminate answer choices with excessively strong language. The rationale here is that regardless of the question type, a correct answer must be supported by the passage. So unless the passage itself contains very forceful language, an answer choice that contains strong language is probably incorrect. For example, if the passage states that water temperature is one factor that affects plankton growth, then an answer choice that suggests that an increased water temperature will definitely cause increased plankton growth is an exaggeration and thus incorrect. The last tip is to avoid answer choices that introduce a concept or content that was not mentioned or suggested in the passage. This is a common way for the test makers to confuse you. When you encounter an answer choice with new content, you naturally assume that you must have missed something when you first read the passage. As a result, you may feel compelled to reread the passage and look for information that never existed in the first place. Now, if you read the passage at a comfortable speed and you formulate an answer before examining the answer choices, you should be able to avoid falling for this trap. Okay, these are the general tips for identifying correct answers and eliminating incorrect answers. In the next lesson, we'll examine some tips to consider when tackling certain question types.